Okay. So a husband and wife are together on a romantic cruise. And the wife turns to the husband and says, "What do you really feel about me anyway?" And the husband says, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. And the wife says, "Oh, well, what does that mean?" And the husband says, "Adorable, beautiful, charming, delightful, elegant, fabulous, gorgeous, and really, really hot." And she says, "Oh, that's so nice. Well, what about the IJK?" The husband winks at her, puts his arm around her and says, "I'm just kidding." Now you have to have a really strong relationship with your wife to be able to tell her that joke and have her find it to be funny. I don't think I have that strong a relationship. I do not have the courage to even try. But I thought I'd try it out on you guys. Jordan Peterson's The 12 Rules for Life. I read the whole book. I'm on the 3rd chapter. And the 3rd chapter is very interesting. The 3rd chapter is make friends with people who want the best for you. And what Jordan Peterson does is he takes that topic and he relates it to stories in his own life. And I could share with you stories about his life, but they wouldn't be as meaningful to you or to me as stories in my life. And that's what I like to do. I like to read books, and I like to say, how does reading this change my life? How does this connect with other experiences in my life? What can I learn from this? So I actually find reading to be an experience where you take more time to digest and integrate what you learn. So I'm going to give you 3 different stories, 2 of them which happened to people I know about, and 1 which happened to me, and try and relate them to this topic. When I was about 12 years old, I heard some very bad news around Christmas time. Greg Stutzman, who was a couple years older than me, had gone skiing up at Crystal Mountain, which was only about an hour away. He had left with 3 friends in a car early in the morning. This is a true story. And his family showed up and related a horror story of what happened. Evidently, Greg was in the car. He was not the driver. His best friend was driving the car. They wanted to get up there and get in front of the line so they wouldn't have to wait in line as long as they would otherwise have to. So the friends were all encouraging the driver to go faster. Now it's icy, it's snowy, it's foggy, but they decide to go around one car and try and race around it in the wrong lane to beat that car around a blind turn. And unfortunately, another car is coming in the same direction. They hit. Greg Stutzman's car went off the cliff. He died along with 2 of his friends. His best friend broke his neck, the one who was driving, and got to live the rest of his life knowing that he had killed his 3 best friends. Now this is the type of story that the son of a neurosurgeon gets to hear fairly often. But it's usually about somebody that was operated on that you don't even know. This happened to be a guy who was living 3 doors down while their family was crying during our Christmas party. And it wasn't just that year, because they got to remember this on the anniversary of every single Christmas Eve party, because it had happened that morning. So I got to see them crying 5 or 6 years in a row at the Christmas party as they remembered this horrible incident where their brother or son had died in a car accident. Who you choose as your friends has consequences. Who you choose to have as a friend who's driving the car has consequences. You've all heard the phrase, birds of a feather flock together. Birds of a feather succeed or fail together. You want to surround yourself with people that you can trust, who aren't going to do something stupid that could cost you your life. Now, not all of your friends or your interactions with your friends are going to be life or death experiences. This is just one of the worst, most crushing type stories that I can tell. And unfortunately, it's not the only one. I have come before you guys before and talked about my best friend, Brian Sullivan. Brian Sullivan was the best man at my wedding. he decided to divorce his wife for no good reason and move all the way up to Alaska. And being divorced and living in this freezing cold Alaskan town that's at the top of the world, there was 4 times as many men as there were women. So all of the men got very competitive about trying to get one of the few women that was in the town. So he decided to date the common law wife of a convicted felon. As you can possibly guess, that did not turn out very well, even if you haven't heard this story before. He ended up going and showing off his girlfriend, the common law wife of the convicted felon, in front of the felon at the local school, went back to her house, and at 10 o'clock at night, the convicted felon busted into the house, said, "What the hell are you doing here?" Raised his double-barreled shotgun, and shot my best man through the head, killed him. Blood splattered everywhere, his brains bounced off the back of the wall. Horrible, horrible experience. Brian had chosen to associate with the wrong friend. And he killed him. That's horrible. It's horrible. So, how does this relate to me? Now I get to my story. When the Chargers were in town, loved to play and see the Chargers. And I liked to go with a group. And I didn't grow up having a lot of friends because I studied too much. So I wasn't the guy who went off to all the parties and got drunk and did lots of stuff that I was ashamed about. So I never got to have that fabulous experience of waking up with a hangover and regretting what I had done the night before. But in my old age, I was able to hang around with some people who were doing this, and I got to see what it was like. And I still didn't like drinking because I was the designated driver. And besides, I don't like drinking really anyways. Even before I got gout, I can't drink anymore. And that doesn't bother me in the slightest, and that's whatever. If I deny it too much, then people won't believe me. So, anyway, I was not drinking. But I didn't have the strength to tell all of my buddies not to get into my car when I took them to the game. And they invited themselves in with those red glasses, the cups that had alcohol in them. And last I checked, it's illegal to have open alcohol in your car, even when you're not drinking it. I do believe that's the law in California, isn't it? I pretty much thought that I shouldn't be allowing them to do that, but they invited themselves. I wasn't the most popular guy in the group, so I just sort of went along. So here I am, I'm driving on the freeway about 65 miles per hour. Some fireworks or something's going on the right-hand side. Turn around, look straight ahead, everything's fine. And all of a sudden, this BMW pulls in front of me and slams on the brakes. And slams them on hard enough that we go from 65 miles an hour down to 30 miles an hour in the space of about 2 seconds. And I get within 2 inches of ramming into this other guy's bumper. And meanwhile, the woman behind me spills her vodka all over my back. And then while I'm 2 inches away at 35 miles an hour trying not to hit this person, she grabs a shirt and starts hitting the back of my neck. And I'm like... And then if that's not bad enough, they slam the brakes on again and go down to 15 miles an hour. And I had pulled back only about 2 feet, so then boom, I'm back to 2 inches again. I couldn't talk. I managed to avoid hitting this person's bumper. I couldn't talk for about an hour. I was walking around like this, trying to think through this experience and how it had happened. Was it my fault? Was it their fault? How did this happen? And finally, after an hour, I turned to the guy and said, I really am having a hard time digesting what just happened. He said, well, you saved our lives. I said, well, I'm glad somebody thinks that because of all the screaming and yelling that was going on in the car. You think I was the one at fault. I had to think about this for 6 months, and I related this story to a couple people, and finally I figured out what had happened. There are people who look to cause accidents. They saw the red cups of the people in the car. Anyone who rams into a bumper is at fault, according to insurance, no matter what. Even if they slam on the brakes from 65 miles an hour down to 30 miles an hour. Those were professional accident causers. Saw me as a mark, We're sitting there waiting, knowing there was drunk-ass idiots going to the game on the freeway. They purposely pulled in front of me and tried to cause an accident. And if they'd been successful, I would have had alcohol all over me. Not that I had drunk it. It had been spilled all over me by the person behind me. There was alcohol all over the car. I was at fault, even if I hadn't been drinking any of it. I was at fault if I hit somebody in front of me. That's the way the insurance company says it, no matter what the person in front of you is doing. They would have faked an injury. They would have sued me for everything I had. As a real estate agent, I could have lost my license. I've known real estate agents who have to get other people to come and drive them around because they lost their license because they got caught in a DUI. It would have destroyed my life. And I came within 2 inches of that. What a life-changing experience. You know, smart people can learn from the mistakes of others. Semi-smart people can at least learn from their own mistakes. And the average person has to do the same thing wrong 3 or 4 times before they figure out what they're doing wrong. That only had to happen to me once. And I never associated with those people again, because if I didn't have the strength to say, no, don't get into my car, I at least had the strength to say, I am not going to step into temptation. I'm going to avoid it. That's the Lord's Prayer. Avoid temptation, lead me not into temptation. That was my motto. So, I didn't have everything I owned taken away from me, but I came within 2 inches. Who your friends are matters. Now, it's not always a life or death experience. It's not always about losing your entire net worth. It's not always about, being sued and losing everything. But choose to be with people who are genuinely excited when you get a promotion. Choose to be with people who are excited when you deliver a good speech. Choose to be with people when, if you get a new car, they're not envious. Or if they are, they hide it really well. Be with people who want you to succeed in life. And that's tough. That's tough. For you to be around people like that, you have to pick and choose wisely. And you have to build them up too. You have to have the strength to genuinely be happy at their successes. And that's not easy. That's something you have to work at. I have found myself every now and then being jealous, and I've said to myself, what is the positive response to this? Positive response is to work harder, to work smarter, to do as best I can, and to try not to compare myself to others, but to my potential. Now that's easy to say, and it's very tough to execute. But if you get in the habit of being around other people who do the same thing, it's easier. As the Christians say, iron sharpens iron. If you hang around other people who are acting virtuously, who are complimenting you genuinely, who are genuinely interested in your success, who aren't trying to pull you down or disparage you or criticize you to make themselves feel better, life is easier. Life is easier. And you can learn from these mistakes that these other 2 people made that could have killed them, and you could learn from the mistake I almost made that could have ruined my life. But one of the reasons I'm in this club is because you guys I consider to be my friends. You guys bring me up. You've done a great job of convincing me that you really want me to succeed. Now, whether you had to fake that or it's genuine, you've done a good enough job to convince me, and I'm going to accept it. I'm not going to question it. I feel the same way about you guys, and I'm excited to see us all get better as a group, as speakers, and I'm excited to hang around all of us because I think that we all care about each other. And that's the type of friendship that matters. Fellow Toastmasters. Yeah.